June 18th, 1968, Larry Taylor was called to provide air support as a Cobra helicopter pilot during a firefight in Vietnam. 4 soldiers were on the ground fighting for their lives. After Taylor fired all of his rockets and used all of his ammunition, he dropped his Cobra down in the middle of the fight, lifted those men to safety, saving their lives.
I have seen people who were captured and tortured, and hell no, there was no doubt in my mind. I just had to create a diversion to get their mind off of shooting at me to go in and get them.
Larry Taylor first told us his story in 2018. A group of veterans started working the year before that to get the Silver Star Taylor was awarded for his actions upgraded to the Medal of Honor.
We were just glad to get out of there because we were out of options, out of time, out of ammunition. That was the only alternative.
Dave Hill is the only surviving member of that 4-man team rescued that night. He's been working to get Larry Taylor the Medal of Honor for more than 6 years. This is video of that work from 2019. I talked to Hill recently from his home in Nevada about how all this started.
We were talking about it. I said, look, why didn't he get the Medal of Honor? I said, well, we always assumed he did. Obviously, he didn't. I don't know where to go from here. And
So you assumed that he had already, is that right?
Up to 1999, our first reunion in Branson, then we found out, no, he hadn't gotten it.
Dave spent years thinking about it, researching, but he really wasn't sure where to start.
I sent a letter to Senator Bob Corker and said, you have a native son there in Chattanooga area, Larry Taylor, that should be considered for the Medal of Honor, and I laid out my case for it.
Senator Corker's office not only responded, but his staff went to work to learn the process.
The entire process was totally new to all of us.
That letter exchange was 6 years and lots of paperwork ago.
Answering all the questions that were required to be answered for submitting for an upgrade.
The Army requires 2 eyewitnesses to consider an upgrade. Taylor's co-pilot that night lives out of the country, and it took them more than a year to make contact with him.
Numerous residences, and we started a lot of track and trace activity, and finally were eventually able to get a hold of him. And he came through with an excellent witness letter, which corroborated everything that we'd stated in the original application.
Larry Taylor hand-delivered that letter to Fort Knox, Kentucky. Then they waited for close to a year. And finally, the Army came back with an answer. They said no. The Army said there was still something missing.
What they call new and substantive information that was not known to Larry Taylor's commanders at the time they were deciding if he would get an award and what the level of that award should be.
But Larry Taylor's commanders never talked to Dave Hill or any of the people on the ground that night, so the group went looking for more help.
Ultimately, we got General B.B. Bell involved, and that proved to be a real icebreaker on this process.
B.B. Bell, retired 4-star general. He was General Norman Schwarzkopf's executive officer during Desert Storm. I talked to General Bell a couple of years ago about why he got involved.
I know the system. I've lived in the system. I reviewed many recommendations for awards, and I think I understand what it takes to be considered for a Medal of Honor. I know I do.
General Bell was able to get the Army to take another look and understand they did have information that Taylor's command did not. Larry Taylor risked his life to save those 4 soldiers that night. What gives a person the courage, the ability to do what he did?
That's your job. That's what you do. And I told my men, you never leave a man on the ground. And we never did.